Hey guys, Florin here. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do form validation on the client side using JavaScript when a form is submitted. So we have here a container with a form, and this form has 4 input fields. We have the username, email, password, and the password check. And if we try to submit the form now, we'll get 4 error messages that the input fields are blank. But if we add something, let's say a username here, Florin, in the field, and we submit, we can see that the input field turns green, and also we have the check mark here. Also for the email, if we type something like a.c, we'll try to submit, but it will say that it's not a valid email, so we're also checking to see if the email is valid or not. So if we type something like florin.com, like that, it will turn green. Also for the password, we can type something, it won't be blank, but if the password check is not the same, it will say that they don't match. Alright, so this is what we're going to build in this tutorial. It will be in 2 parts. First we'll focus on the HTML and CSS, and then we're going to implement the JavaScript part. So if you want to skip the HTML CSS, you find the time in the description below. Alright, so as usual we have an empty CodePen project, and let's start implementing the HTML first. So we'll have a container, which will be that box I showed you, and here we're going to have a header, which is going to contain the h2 element, create account. Alright, and underneath we're going to have a form, which will have both a class of form and the ID of form. This is because we want to style it in the CSS using the class, and then in the JavaScript we're going to target it using the ID. Alright, and here we're going to have the 4 inputs, so all of them will be inside of a div form control. For those of you familiar with Bootstrap, this is the class used in Bootstrap, so we can use that too. And here we're going to have 5 elements. We're going to have a label, an input, 2 icons, and then a small tag. And I'll tell you what does everything here. Okay, so for the label we're going to say what the input field stands for. So this one is the username. For the input we're going to have also placeholder, like so, and an ID of username, like that. Now for the icons here, we have 2 icons, the check icon and the exclamation icon, and we're going to show the check icon when the input is successful, and we're going to show the exclamation icon when it's not, it's an error. And these are font awesome icons, so let's add the class for that. Have a check circle, and for the exclamation one we're going to have exclamation circle. And let's add the font awesome library so we can see the icons. Alright, and this small tag we're going to use to show the error message to the user. So here let's type error message. Right, so that's it for one input field. We have 4, so let's copy this 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay. And this one is going to be email, the placeholder, let's say hello Florin.com, and the ID will be email. We're going to keep the same error message here because this will be changed in the JavaScript, so it's just a placeholder. Alright, next we'll have password. Oh, also this input, it's an email type, like that. So here we have a password, type password, placeholder password, ID, password, everything's password here, so yeah. That's it. And here let's just copy paste this again and remove this. Easier. Add password check, and here password 2 and password 2 as an ID. Alright, and at the bottom of the form we're going to have a button which will say submit. Alright, so that's it for the HTML. Let's move on to the CSS. First, let's add box sizing, border box to everything. Then change the background color of the body, or color here, 9B59B6. Like that. It's going to be a flex element, align item center, and justify content center. This is to center everything, but if you followed my tutorials, you'll see that I do this everywhere, so you'll get used to it. Mean height, 100 viewport heights, and margin 0. So now it's in the middle. And also, let's add a font. Let me copy it over. Okay, the font from Google Fonts. And add the font family quickly. Font family open sans serif. So that's it for the body. Next, let's style the container. It will be white, background color, border radius 5 pixels. It will have a box shadow, 0 2 pixels, 5 pixels, just to make it stand out a little bit. 0.3. Also, let's add a fixed width on it. And the max width on the mobile, so it won't stay fixed, it will be fluid on mobile. Next, for the header of the container, if you remember, we added here a header and an h2. Let's style that. The header will have background color of F7, F7, F7. We'll have padding 20 pixels, 40 pixels, and also it will have a border bottom, 1 pixel solid, F0, F0, something like that. And let's remove the margin from the header, from the H2, margin 0. Alright, so it looks better now. The header, as you can see here, we have the right corners, even though we have border radius 5 pixels. And that's because the header goes out of the container, and we can see that right angle there. So to fix that, we just add overflow hidden on the container, and now we can see the border radius. Next, the form. Going to have a little bit of padding, and now let's style everything here inside. So the form control like that. It will have a margin bottom of 10 pixels and the padding bottom of 20 pixels. This padding is used to have a spot for the error message, because it won't display always. So we just keep the padding there, and then when the input is failed, then we can show the error message in that spot. And it's also going to be position relative, because we're going to have absolute positioned elements inside it. Alright, and now let's take its child element. So form control label, display inline block, and the margin bottom of 5 pixels. If it wouldn't be inline block, then we couldn't apply a 5 pixel margin bottom. So let me show you after we style the input. Form control input, we have border 2 pixels solid, oops, F0, 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 border radius 4 pixels, display block. Now it's on a separate line, make it have a width of 100%, padding of 10 pixels, font size, bigger font size 40 pixels, and let's inherit the font family, because by default it's another font. Alright, so let me go back a little bit to the label to show you. So if it's not inline block, you can see the margin doesn't affect it. So because it's by default an inline, and you can set the margin top and bottom on the inline. So this is why we have inline block here. Alright, and now these icons and the error message will be absolutely positioned, so they won't take up space. So let's position the icons first. Form control icon, we position absolute with top 40 pixels and right 10 pixels. And also it will be hidden by default, and we only show it when the input is successful or if it's an error. And for the small tag, form control small, it's also going to be position absolute, bottom 0 and left 0. See, after we change position absolute, it removed all the space it needed. So now if we are going to say visibility hidden, it will go away and we have this space here. So that's why we added the padding button 20 pixels like that. Also, let's hide the icons by default. So visibility hidden. Alright, and let's style the button now. Button will be background color 8E44AD. Also, it will have the same color for the border, pixel solid like that, color white, display block, and width 100%. As the inputs, will have padding 10 pixels, bigger font size 16 pixels, and font family inherit like that. And also let's add the border radius 4 pixels. Alright, so that's it for the basic layout and the basic styling. Now we have to style the successful and the error states. So for that, we're going to add dynamically in the JavaScript two classes, either success if it's right or error if it's wrong. So let's add now here for testing success class on the first one and error on the second, and let's style the inputs based on that. So first, the input. If the form control is going to have a success class on it, the input's border color will be 2ECC71, so that green color. But if it's going to be an error, it will be E74C3C, like that, so the red color. Also, when we have success, then the form control icon, which is the FA check circle, it's going to be visible, visibility visible, and its color is going to be this green color. And the same for the error, but now we target the exclamation one, and we're going to add the red color, exclamation. So you can see two states now, the success and the error, and also on the error we can see the small tag only on the error. So error, small tag, visibility visible, and the color will be the red one. So this. Perfect. Now all the HTML and CSS is done. All we have to do is to implement the JavaScript. So let's do that. Alright, so the first thing, we need to target all the elements we want to have event listener on them, or we want to check the values. So we have the form, and for the form we are going to listen to the submit event listener, and then we're going to check the 4 values of the inputs. So we're going to need to target the form and the 4 inputs. So let's do that. The form is going to be document get element by ID form, like that. You remember we added the form ID here, and also we have the IDs on all of the inputs, so we can target them. Let's copy this over and change it quickly. So the first one is username, then we have password, then we have email, sorry, it's email first, never mind, and then password 2, like that. And let's put email here. All right. And when the form is submitted, we add an event listener to listen to that. Add event listener and submit. So we prevent default, so it won't submit the form, and we're going to call our custom-made function named check inputs. And here in this function, we're going to do all the checking of the inputs. So first, we need to get the values from the inputs. So we have these 4. Let's get their values. So we have username.value, email.value, password.value, and password2.value, like that. And let's store this in a separate variable. So const username value, like that. And let's do that for all 3 of the remaining ones. Okay. Oops. Const set here value. All right. And what I usually do when I check for the value of the form is also of the values of input, also I trim the value. So this trim function removes all the white space from a string. So let's add that, because maybe user will just press space a couple of times, so we don't want to allow that. And now we just take all 4 of the inputs and we check to see if they have a value inside it. If they're successful, we just add the success class on the form control. Otherwise, we add the error class, and also we show an error message. So let's do that for the input with the username first. If username value is empty, we're going to show error and add error class. Otherwise, we're going to add success class. And because we need to do this 4 times for all of the inputs, and also depending on what we want to check. So for example, for the email, we want to see if it's a valid email, not only if it's empty, but also if it's a valid email. And for the password check, we also want to see if it's the same as the password. So we have different messages. And for that, we're going to create 2 functions. So here, if the username is empty, we're going to call the set error 4, and we'll say username. So we're going to create this function set error 4, and we're going to target the input for which we want to set the error. And also it's going to have a message. So something like username cannot be blank. And if it's successful, we want to call the set success for username. And here we won't have an error message. So let me create these functions and you'll see what I mean. Function set error for. Here we have the input and the message. Now the thing is that if you remember, we want to add the error class on the form control, which is the parent of the input. So not directly on the input. So for that, we want to get the form control element here by saying input.parent element. So this is the form control div with the class of form control. And also for the error, we want to target the small tag, which is inside the form control. So we say form control dot query selector and the small tag, because we want to add the error message inside the small tag. So we just type small, inner text is message. And also let's not forget to add the error class. So form control, that class name will be form control and error, like that. Let's remove these classes we have here and test if our JavaScript is working. So if we click the button, look, it's empty. So we display the error message and also add the error class on the form control. So that adds the red border and shows the error icon and the error message. But if we add something here in the input and click again, oops, it's nothing because we don't have the success function yet. So let's do that quickly. Function set success for input, and same as here, we want to target the form control, but in this case we don't have a message, so an error message, so we just add the class name, form control and success, like that. So if we if we press the button, we can see the error message appearing, but if we type here something in the input and click again, it's successful. And that's it for the username. All we have to do now is to do the same for all the three remaining inputs. Let's remove these comments and do the same for email. So if email value is empty, we call the set error for the email and say email cannot be blank. But in this case also we want to check if the email is valid, because it can not be empty. And if we here we can see we also have HTML5 email check, but if we type something like s something like that, this is not a valid email, so we should see an error message. And for that we'll have a custom function to check if it's email. So let's write it. Function is email, which will take in the email and is going to be a big regex. So let me paste it in. I got this from Stack Overflow because regex is hard, so I won't bother creating this from scratch. So it tests this regex with the email, and this will return true or false depending if the email is valid or not. So now that we have this function, we can check here. Else if it's not a valid email value, then we set another error for the email and it will say email is not valid. And otherwise, let's show the success box, success border. So for the email, like that. So let's test it. If we click now, we see email is blank. If we type something email is not valid. So if we say .com now, email is valid and it's green and everyone's happy. Next, for the password, let's check if password value is empty, the same story. So let's just copy everything. Password, and password. Also, if you want, here you can have the same for the email. You can check for everything. So for example, if the password, you want to say that the password should be at least 7 characters, or should have a lowercase character, uppercase character, a number, sign, or whatever. You can do everything here in the if statement. So just say else if and check for that. I'll keep it simple for this tutorial. So we just check if it's not empty. And we're going to have the second password. And for this, so password 2, password 2, password 2, and password 2 cannot be blank. But also we're going to have an else if statement here and else remaining here, like that. So else if password value is different than password value 2. So let me line it. Alright. So if it is, we're going to say passwords does not match. Like that. So that's pretty much it. We can see now, if we click submit, it won't let us because it's empty. If we add something, here we need to add an around, okay. It says the email is not valid, we add .com. Here it says the password cannot be blank. Oops. Oh, so here's password 2 value, sorry. Alright. So let's check again. We have something in the password and this one is different. So it says password does not match. If we enter the same, it's green again. Username and email and everything is green now. You can also show a message if everything is green. Do a check here after the end of this function. Yeah, that could be a nice challenge for you. So after this function here, show a success message. This will be a nice challenge for you. Just swap out everything here in the form and add a message or make a pop-up or show an alert or do whatever you want. You just have to check if all the form controls have the success class on them. So if they have, everything is successful and you can show the success message. Alright, thanks for watching. I'm going to put the CodePen link in the description. Check it out there. If you liked it, make sure you give it a like and subscribe. If you want to see more, let me know what kind of tutorials you want me to build in the future. And I'll see you next time. Bye.